She walks into the corridor alone, a young woman in a man's world, with eyes that have seen too much, and a badge that still smells of fresh ink. But the thing behind the glass, it doesn't see her title, it sees her soul. What happens next is not just cinema. It's a descent into control, into manipulation, into the raw mechanics of fear itself. When The Silence of the Lambs was released in 1991, it wasn't expected to change the world. And yet it did. It didn't just earn 5 Oscars. It birthed a new language of psychological terror. Evil didn't need claws anymore. It just needed a calm voice and a keen interest in your childhood trauma. This film didn't ask, who's the killer? It asked, what made him? And more disturbingly, what might we share with him? Watch till the end to uncover what really happened. Don't miss a single twist in this deep dive into The Silence of the Lambs. Like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know when the next chapter drops. The story is only beginning. Dr. Hannibal Lecter is not a man you outweak. You don't talk to him. He talks through you. The brilliance of Anthony Hopkins' performance lies not in aggression, but in stillness. He speaks like a scalpel, quiet, controlled, precise. Each word cuts deeper, and by the time you realize you're bleeding, he's smiling. He doesn't hunt Clarice. He dissects her. Tell me about the lambs, Clarice. He isn't just interested. He's excavating her. In most films, fear is the reaction. In Silence of the Lambs, fear is the location. We live in it. We breathe it. It drips from the walls like water. The fear isn't just about monsters. It's about being seen. Clarice walks into rooms where she is always watched. The camera mirrors her vulnerability. Close, suffocating, always cornered. The real horror isn't Hannibal Lecter. It's that he knows her. And worse, she lets him. While Lecter holds our minds, Buffalo Bill holds our nightmares. He is not charming, not refined, not interesting even, and that is what makes him more terrifying. He is rage unmasked. He is loneliness weaponized. He doesn't want to kill. He wants to transform. He's not making a suit of skin, he's building a self. He's the result of a world that ignores misfits until they become myths. Clarice Starling is more than a detective. She's the haunted child who never forgot the screaming of the lambs. She's every woman walking into rooms not meant for her. Every survivor who refused to be defined by what tried to break her. While the men posture, she listens. While the monsters rant, she remembers. And when fear closes in, Clarice doesn't scream. She acts. Clarice's strength doesn't come from intellect. It comes from memory, from facing the pain that shaped her and refusing to let it define her. She understands something Lecter admires, that monsters are made, not born. And sometimes the way to stop them is to understand them. What if Lecter isn't the true villain? What if his gift was giving Clarice the clarity she needed? In Chapter 2, we follow Clarice into memory, into the lamb's screams, into the moment the girl who remembered became the woman who survived. You think if you save the poor Catherine, you could make them stop, don't you? You still wake up hearing them, don't you? But what if the silence isn't the end? What if it's the beginning of something darker? She was just a trainee, still learning how to hold a badge without letting it tremble in her grip. But in a world of predators, sometimes it's the prey who remembers what the hunters forget. And sometimes it's the girl they underestimated who turns the game around. Clarice Starling was young, brilliant, and haunted. A top student at Quantico, but it wasn't just ambition that drove her, it was memory. She remembered a scream, the kind that echoes long after the sound is gone. That scream belonged to a lamb once, but in her dreams, it could have been a girl. As a child, Clarice saw something no child should, the butchered innocence of life. That night, she tried to save just one lamb. She failed. But some memories don't just linger, they build monsters in the dark. And Clarice was determined to hunt them down. And then came the assignment. Not a promotion, a test. He was called many things, doctor, monster, madman. But to her, from the very first moment, he was a mirror. No windows, no warmth, just whispers and walls too thick for hope. But Clarice walked the hall anyway, because somewhere in that corridor was a man who remembered too much, and a girl trying to forget. Hannibal Lecter didn't just see Clarice. He read her, unwrapped her in seconds like paper off a gift he didn't deserve. Dr. Lecter calmly, "Tell me, Clarice, do the lambs still scream?" In that moment, he didn't need a weapon. He already had one, her past. But Clarice didn't flinch. She gave him what few ever did, respect. And in return, he gave her breadcrumbs. The serial killer was on the loose. Women were vanishing. The only person who knew how to stop him, the cannibal, and the girl who remembered the screaming lambs had to convince the monster to help save the innocent. Clues weren't just in files or autopsies. They were tucked in diaries, whispered in dreams, and buried beneath trauma. Clarice was learning fast. Monsters didn't always look like Hannibal. Sometimes they wore skin like suits. The girl who remembered had become a woman who understood. Each visit to Lecter wasn't just about catching a killer. It was peeling away her own fear. And Lecter knew it. He smiled every time she got closer to the truth and to herself. But just when she needed him most, Lecter vanished. A game of cat and mouse had turned into a race against time. A girl was still missing. Buffalo Bill was spiraling. And Clarice? She was alone. But she remembered. Every word, every whisper, every scream. They thought she was just a trainee. They didn't know she was the girl who remembered. What do you hear when there's nothing left to say? Silence? Or something far more haunting? For Clarice Starling, it was always the screaming of the lambs. Clarice isn't just a character. She is a symbol, a portrait of innocence thrust into the mouth of madness. In the silence of the lambs, her journey is more than a manhunt. It's an excavation of her own trauma. Because long before she stood face to face with Hannibal Lecter, Clarice was already running. From memory, from fear, from that barn in Montana where the screaming wouldn't stop. The lambs, slaughtered, helpless, and a girl who couldn't save them. But this trauma doesn't weaken her, it sharpens her. It becomes the hidden engine of her pursuit. When Lecter asks about the lambs, he isn't probing for fun. He's peeling back the layers because he knows, as all great manipulators do, that fear buried deepest fuels the most relentless seekers. You still wake up sometimes, don't you? Wake up in the dark and hear the screaming of the lambs. And in that question lies the paradox. The deeper Hannibal pulls Clarice into darkness, the more clearly she sees herself. But here's the chilling twist. What if Clarice's purity, her righteousness, is the very reason Lecter lets her in? Let's break that down. Hannibal Lecter, a monster with surgical precision, is rarely moved. But something in Clarice disrupts his pattern. He recognizes her intelligence, but more importantly, her vulnerability. She becomes a mirror, not of his madness, but of what he once might have been human. He doesn't just give her clues. He gives her pieces of herself, wrapped in riddles and trauma. And in that exchange, a sinister intimacy is born. One that doesn't rely on touch or flirtation, but on understanding. A deadly, perfect understanding. But Clarice isn't seduced. She doesn't bend. And this is where the silence becomes thunder. Alone. No backup. No Lecter. Just the echoes of screaming lambs and the promise that saving one life might finally silence the past. This is the moment everything converges. Fear, memory, and courage. Clarice isn't merely confronting Buffalo Bill. She's confronting the helplessness she felt as a child. And when the shot rings out in the dark, it isn't just the end of a killer. It's the breaking of a spell. But the silence that follows, it doesn't bring peace. She's achieved what few could, but she's changed. She's seen the worst of humanity, and she knows there will always be more lambs, more darkness, more Lecters. I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. If this deep dive into the haunting psychology of the silence of the lambs has gripped you, don't let go now. Like this video, share it with fellow film lovers, and subscribe for more chilling breakdowns. Turn on notifications so you never miss a whisper in the dark. We thought it ended with Clarice, But evil, true evil, never truly disappears. It waits, watches, remembers. Years after Hannibal Lecter vanished into the world's underbelly, whispers followed in his wake. Mysterious disappearances, bodies drained with surgical precision, and the smell of Chianti lingering like an afterthought. But this chapter isn't about Hannibal's trail of blood. It's about the man he remembered, Will Graham. Yes, that Will, the gifted profiler from Lecter's earlier days. The one who nearly lost his life and his mind trying to understand the monster before the world even knew his name. Will didn't just profile Lecter. He knew him too well, and that almost destroyed him. After the events of Red Dragon, Will disappeared into obscurity. Cabin in the woods. No electricity. No news. Just silence again. But when Clarice faced Lecter in the Silence of the Lambs, Will watched. He saw the girl, the fear, the game, and he knew. Will Graham couldn't save himself, but maybe, just maybe, he could save her. While Clarice fought her battles on the surface, Will moved in the shadows, piecing together Hannibal's escape route, tracking his coded messages, interpreting the symphony of silence left in Lecter's wake. But here's the question. Was Will hunting Hannibal, or was Hannibal drawing him back in? Because manipulation, that's Lecter's art form, and he doesn't lose pieces on the board. He collects them. Lecter wasn't just fascinated by Clarice. He was preparing her, grooming her, not as prey, but as an equal. The silence wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new kind of communication. Not through words, through actions, through lives saved or taken. And Will knew it. The final move wasn't in courtrooms or dungeons. It was in the quiet choices, the decision to walk away or look into the abyss and not blink. Clarice never answered the letter, but she kept it. And Will? He disappeared again. Only this time, no one ever found him. Evil doesn't end. It evolves. And those who touch it never leave unchanged. If you've been haunted by the Silence of the Lambs, it's because the story was never just about a killer. It was about us, our fear, our curiosity, our fascination with darkness. Let's hear from you. What scene from the Silence of the Lambs still lingers in your mind? Do you believe Clarice truly escaped Lecter's grasp? Should Will Graham return to confront the final chapter? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll be featuring the most chilling theories in upcoming episodes. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more cinematic breakdowns of the films that shape our nightmares.